All right, what up, what up, what up? How's everybody doing? Gonna be doing a little bit of streaming tonight. Oh yeah. Vertigo Veritas TV. Um we've got a pretty good lineup of things to talk about and a debate tonight. The debate is going to be with Counterpoints, who's a streamer on Twitch and YouTube, I believe. Um we're gonna do some fun stuff today. We got some stories about astrobiologists thinking the Earth itself may be intelligent. We've got a couple other things going on. There's some crazy shit going on with Ukraine and with Trump and with a bunch of other things going on. So we're gonna get into it right now. Drop the intro. All right, guys. So, just hanging out tonight. Got a couple of things to do. I wanted to go over this crazy ass story that I came across. That was a little weird. This is from futurism.com. So let's just get into this just for some fun before we get into politicking and stuff like that. All right. So, astrobiologists suggest the Earth itself may be an intelligent entity. Is that what a brain looks like? I think that's fake. All right. A group of researchers have posed a fascinating and downright mind-bending thought experiment. If a planet like Earth can be alive, can it also have a mind of its own? The team published a paper exploring this question in the International Journal of Astrobiology. What's the brain and the Earth have to do with astrobiology? It's just it wouldn't it be, I mean, it's not in space, so I don't know. In it, they present the idea of planetary intelligence, which describes the collective knowledge and cognition of an entire planet. Though it seems like something ripped off of the screen of a Marvel movie, they believe the concept might actually help us deal with global issues such as climate change, or even help us discover extraterrestrial life. I'm not exactly sure how it will do that, but let's go ahead and read further. Let's see here. The researchers point to evidence that underground networks of fungi can communicate to suggest that large-scale networks of life could form a vast invisible intelligence that profoundly alters the condition of the entire planet. I have heard about this. So I've heard that there's a mycelial network and like giant forests and stuff like that. And so what they'll do is they kind of like regulate with the trees and kind of tell certain areas of the forest which areas need more water and things like that. It's very interesting. So that is really cool that it does that. Let's see here. One of the primary species driving that change at the moment, they point out, are humans. And currently, from the climate to plastic crisis, we may well be irrecoverably changing the environment and environmental balance. We don't yet have the ability to communally respond in the best interests of the planet, Adam Frank, professor of physics at the University of Rochester and co-author of the paper, said in a press release about the paper. The researchers believe that such thought experiments can help humans to understand their impact on the Earth and serve as a guide of as how to better it. Interestingly, they can also believe that it can aid in the search for aliens too. We're saying the only technology civilizations we may ever see, the ones we should expect to see, are the ones that didn't kill themselves, meaning they must have reached the stage of true planetary intelligence. Well, that's an interesting thought. There's, I think it's a DC that there's a living planet. I know that in the Green Lantern universe. That's the power of this line of inquiry, he added. It unites what we need to know to survive the climate crisis, what might happen on any planet where life and intelligence evolve. Yeah, well, we'll see if we last that long. I don't know, I just thought this was an interesting story. I did hear interesting things about mycelial networks and stuff like that. I do think that, in a way, the internet is kind of a connective intelligence of everybody on Earth. It's kind of like all of our knowledge pushed together. And what if it became like sentient someday and try to take us all over? Some fucking Skynet shit. Anyways, it's a fun story to look into. Let's see here. How's everybody doing? Happy Friday. Oh, let's see here. Oh my gosh. There's so much weird shit to talk about tonight, guys. Yeah, I want to talk about what's going on in the Ukraine right now, cuz stuff's getting pretty crazy over there. So there's been some discussion about exactly what's going on the Russia-Ukraine border. There's been people saying that Russia had pulled back, and then all of a sudden there's this weird fucking bridge that appears out of nowhere. Yeah, sounds crazy, but it's a thing. And there are several indications that there may be some escalation soon. So, again, I always try to be careful with my words with this stuff, because who knows, man, what goes on behind closed doors with, governmental leaders and things. Let's see here. So it says, this was 2 hours and 7 minutes ago. Satellite images show buildup of Russian helicopters within miles of Ukraine. New satellite imagery from Maxar shows a substantial increase in the deployment of Russian helicopter forces close to the Ukrainian border. Maxar assessed that a new helicopter unit and battle group deployment consisting of tanks, armored personnel carriers, and support equipment have deployed to Malervo airfield, situated 16 kilometers from the border with Ukraine. Let's see here. Okay, so that's kind of concerning. You can see that they're building up forces that are air forces too. That's what's scary about it, is because these aren't ground forces, and the Ukraine doesn't have a bolstered air force by any means. Milerovo is close to the part of Ukraine's border that is controlled by pro-Russian separatists of the self-declared Luhansk People Republic. Slightly further north, Maxar said the new helicopter unit, more than 20 helicopters, has deployed near Valyuk, approximately 27 kilometers east of the border with Ukraine. So that's something that's happening. You see military armaments that are able to take to the skies and more easily attack them. It's, before there was ground skirmishes, there was, insurgency groups, things like that. But now it looks like they're moving in some airstrike forces. It's scary, man. definitely scary stuff that's going on there, because we're kind of tied into this right now because we're part of NATO. And it's going to probably escalate to the point where we may get more involved, which is scary because there are nuclear weapons involved. Both Russia and us have different sizes and shapes of nuclear weapons. So that's always a little bit of a scary perspective. Let's see here. In Ukrainian official, it's impossible to know what exactly is going on in the thoughts of Vladimir Putin. Yeah, Putin is a wild card. It seems like he did, or they apparently were looking like they were pulling back forces just recently, a couple of days ago, or maybe it was a day ago. But then all of a sudden these helicopters appear, so it looks like they may be changing tactics, if anything is going on. So Pelosi says Kiev mayor conveyed the urgent concerns of the people in Kiev. It sounds like people are... Okay, look. There's going to be a situation where there's going to be having to start be evacuations of people out of these areas. I think they have already started with things like that. And it's going to get much more difficult for conflict to be avoided in these situations. Nearly half of Russian forces in attack position. So that's interesting. Let's take a look at that one. Nearly half of Russian forces surrounding Ukraine are in attack position, according to a U.S. defense official familiar with the latest assessment. The number of battalion tactical groups has swelled to approximately 100 to 125. A battalion tactical group usually compromises 1,000 troops. Okay, so that's not half of them then, right? The official said the Russian military has continued to move forces toward the border, and within the last 48 hours, the number of forces in attack position have increased 40 to 50%. Oh, okay. So they're still bringing people in. And at the same time, the Russian destabilization campaign has begun, the official said, with Russia accusing Ukraine of genocide in Donbass, conducting false flag operations, and more. Yeah, this is a playbook straight out of Putin's playbook right here. He does like to create false flags. He's done it before. These are all things that are definite hints that he's ready to invade and try to attempt to annex the Ukraine. So it's going to be an interesting ride over here. The information's coming out, pretty quickly. Biden says uptick in Russian disinformation could be pretext for war. Biden says it's up to Ukraine's Zelensky if he leaves the country for a security conference this weekend. There's quite a bit of happenings going on with this right now. So it's something we want to watch a little bit closer right now. I wouldn't say anything's imminent. Things could change. But it does look like there is some movement towards you doing something on the part of Russia. And I don't know. It's crazy because then you have there's so much nuance to this situation. There are a lot of far right people in the Ukraine too that are involved with their forces, like straight up Nazis and stuff like that. So, there's so much like gray area of this whole thing, and it's just but it's gonna probably affect us all in one way or another. Seeing how this is happening, I'm not just talking about America, but probably the world in many, many ways. So it's something we need to keep an eye on for sure. What's this? PS5 game tech. People getting trampled by horse in Ottawa watching from my home window. Holy shit. Damn. I wonder if I can find any video of that. Let's see. By horse in Ottawa. Let's see here. Maybe. Let's see if I can pull this up.
Here come the horses.
All right, let's see. This is interesting.
Here come the horses. Hold the line. Okay. Oh, come on through. Come on through. What is happening here? Wow. What is this lady doing? Trampling. Trampling horses. Trampling. Stop it. Stop it. What? Oh my God. They just trampled this lady.
Holy shit.
They just trampled that lady. They just fully trampled that lady. They just fully trampled that lady.
Well, did she dive in front of the horse? I mean, what?
Here's the lady. Here's the lady that was trampled.
Jesus Christ. No, that's good. I mean, that's not good. You know.
The lady got fully trampled with a horse.
As much as I.
No, you just got crushed by a horse. No. Yeah, I just watched that lady, the older lady.
As much as I am not a fan of the protests that are happening in Ottawa right now, I think that they're funded by people who are not great people, to say the least. There's a lot of far-right, alt-right, white nationalists organizations that are funding it and helping organize it. To me, it makes really no sense since most of the people, like something like 87% of the truckers in Canada are vaccinated, and like something like 85% of the population as a total, I believe. So, I mean, it just seems to be a lot of to do over nothing as far as that's concerned, except for I think a lot of the true goals is to overthrow the democratic government, democratically elected government of Canada. You know, lots of hate on the government in general right there. On the trucks, you see it. But you can also tell it's run by a lot of fascists, too, because you see a lot of swastikas and fuck Trudeau and right with swastikas and stuff like that, too. So it's a crazy situation over there. Oh, let's see here. Did she die? Did that woman die? Let's see here. Let's take a look here. Roberta Paulson is the name of the Ottawa protester who died. It is being reported. She did die. That's crazy. Police on horseback reportedly dashed past a group of Canadian protesters dubbed as the Freedom Convoy as they continued to protest government restrictions on COVID-19 and vaccination requirements in Ottawa. A video posted to Twitter appears to show Ottawa police officers walking through the crowd and trampling two people with their horses. When the horse stepped on the people, the crowd quickly surrounded them to help them. Well, and we just watched that video. Then officers walking in riot gear and batons appear to push the crowd back in the video. The crowd turned against police, who ordered protesters to leave the area immediately and threatened to arrest them. Yeah. Sounds like most protests in general. Protesters continue to act aggressively towards police lines to prevent escalation of or further harm. Mounted police have dispatched to maintain a critical distance between police lines and protesters. They did not do that, obviously. Protesters continue to take aggressive action against the police line, and in order to prevent the situation from escalating or further harm, mounted police were dispatched to create a critical distance. Okay, that's what they were saying. They were trying to split them up. This is done to create a safe distance. Authorities claim a bicycle was thrown at one of the horse's feet in an attempt to injure it. A man has been arrested on suspicion of intentionally injuring a police service animal. Newsweek reached out to the Ottawa Police Department for a comment, and a spokesperson said no protesters were stomped on. We are not aware of any protesters being trampled by horses. Well, it was on video, so that's fucking bullshit, right? The confrontation between police and protesters came 4 days after Prime Minister Justin Trudeau took the unprecedented step of invoking emergency laws to halt the truck blockade, which he did some shady ass shit too. He actually froze their assets, which is, I don't know. I think it's preferable to have shit not happen quietly behind the scenes like that. Like, you know, if you're gonna try to break up a protest, do it, you know, in the light where everybody can see it. You know, not behind closed doors. It's this little fashy, a little too on the nose for 1984. So the Liberty Motorcade initially protested the country's vaccination mission launched in January, which required all Canadian truck drivers crossing the US-Canada border to be fully vaccinated against the virus, or subject to possible isolation and testing. So they didn't even have to be vaccinated if they got isolation testing, which they probably didn't want to do. But again, something like 87% of truckers are vaccinated in Canada. So, yeah, this is unfortunate though. Definitely unfortunate. That's crazy, man. I'm sure that's not exactly what, I don't know if you saw that or not, like just recently. Gosh damn. I guess it could be. And it's quite crazy, for sure, that that's happening. I did want to talk a little bit about, the Freedom Convoy here, though. Where's that at? Let's take a look here. Here we go.
I'm 15 years old.
So, gentleman by the name of Walter Masterson actually went to the Freedom Convoy and took a few short videos. So I just kind of wanted to show those too, because they look interesting.
To stop the socialist agenda, we need to get rid of these big pharma companies, like Pfizer
He's a leftist, by the way, posing as a conservative.
and Moderna. Pfizer, Moderna.
That's right. You know what?
Amazon, we need to get rid of Amazon if we want to stop the socialists.
Taxes are enough. And we don't revolt. We eat poutine. We drink maple syrup.
You guys need to fight for your freedom because there is an underlining agenda that's going on. I don't know how much you know. I'm not going to get into that.
The workers need to unite against socialism. The workers of the world need to unite and seize the means of production and everything.
They're
Thank
all
you.
standing up now.
What do you think are some things we can do to fight the socialist agenda?
Oh my gosh.
Love, truth. We have to hold a line, put our foot on the ground, and say enough is enough.
The real root cause of the socialist agenda is the banks.
Yeah.
The big banks.
Yeah.
The big banks.
That makes no fucking sense whatsoever. Since, you know, everything's decommodified for the most part. Socialist system.
Through big pharma, big tech,
Big media.
big media.
I'm out of here because we're done. If we lose this fight, this country's over. Canada's always been a socialist type of country.
You've been living under socialism for a long time because of the health care.
Well, yeah, because of the health care, and they sneak it in here, they sneak it in there. Everybody gets used to it. Now everybody woke up, like heavily woke up.
What's the socialism like? It's like you want to see a doctor.
This is so good. This is so good right here. Yeah, they sneak it in there. You know, the good stuff. Oh my gosh.
And then you see a doctor, and then like they don't charge you.
It's not that great of a system, guys. I mean, if you had a car accident or your emergency, it's fast.
Because it's a socialist healthcare system. They're using, they call it like a triage thing.
Sort of, yeah.
It's what we have in there. It's like, you know, you want to pay to see the doctor, you pay to see the doctor.
Exactly.
So like, I can pay to see the doctor right away.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, I don't have to wait and do this like.
Even if you pay to see a doctor in the United States, you have to wait. Yeah, you definitely have to wait. Because everybody pays to see a doctor.
Socialist triage system like they have in Canada.
What the hell?
You think these insurance companies are part of the socialist agenda?
Oh, for sure, 100%. It's always the same cliques making the money. You can have cars doing
These
50 miles
guys make no fucking sense, man.
a gallon
Jesus.
a long time ago. Trust me, a long time ago.
The automotive industry is definitely part of the socialist agenda.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, they're all in bed together. It's all who pays the bill? Us.
Us, the consumer, the taxpayer.
consumer, the taxpayer, the middle class. We always get the bill.
Remember, kids. Corporations are part of the socialist agenda. Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's, he has no idea what socialism is. None whatsoever. No idea. Let's see. We got a couple more of those, I think. All right, let's see here. Or maybe one more. Here we go.
We're here to stand up for our freedoms, show the government that freedom matters. We're not just gonna give in to tyranny.
We see what they're doing. We see our eyes are open.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious what they're doing. I think everyone can see it.
You guys
Yep.
need to fight for your freedom because there is an underlining agenda that's going on. I don't know how much you know. I'm
All
not
right,
gonna get
she's-
into that.
They do this.
This is some of the
right
same
in
stuff,
front
but I
of
think
us.
it's...
Stupid. We don't.
But
Here we go.
they're completely aware.
They think we're so stupid. We don't see what's going on right in front of us.
Exactly, no. And what's also happening right now is that the children in the schools are actually being harassed by their teachers.
They make it seem like we're all so stupid, and we can't see like what's going on right in front of us.
It's amazing the duality in all of this.
They can't go to school. They're forced masking our children.
Oh my God.
It's disgusting and it needs to stop.
They're not gonna.
They're all talking into a coffee cup.
Yeah, they're not gonna-
You
they're
understand
not
this,
gonna-
right? Like, all of these people... He's holding the microphone and then holding the coffee cup up to them. And they have no thoughts about it whatsoever.
Right in front of us, and it's like, you know what? And think we're so stupid that we don't see what's going on.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And I'm glad that we have more people like you here to actually show the world what's going on.
Oh my God. Oh my God. That's quite interesting right there.
I'm 15 years old and the child of immigrants turned.
So yeah, there are definitely some, I would say, naive people involved in those protests in the Freedom Convoy. They're misguided at best for a lot of them, and then some of them are just straight up malicious. Because it's not a protest for what they say it is. I mean, it's not. There's ulterior motives involved with that whole thing, as well. And you can tell that from the groups of people that help organize and fund it as well. And not just the right-wing groups, but individuals like Tucker Carlson who are championing it. That should be your first clue that this is not something that's on the up and up or for a good cause. Oh man. See, we got a half an hour until our debate. I am Oh, it's been a rough week, guys. So I had a funeral for my cousin this week. There's just been a lot of things going on that I've had to deal with. So that's fun. But I'm trying to keep up on this, trying to keep the dream alive, trying to inform you guys of all the crazy shit that's going on in the world. I did want to go over some longer form stuff here. But I'm not sure how much time we have for those. So we will take a look at this story real quick, I suppose. All right. So I don't even know how to breach this story. How to it's just disgusting and baffling, and kind of appalling, and makes me scared for my kid that people out there are like this. We're gonna take a look here. Former Louisiana teacher admits feeding students sperm-laced cakes. This is a thing that happened. Oh my god. I don't know if this is a story about it or not. Let's see here. That's a fight against child pornography, which seems a little connected, at least. Anyways, a former Louisiana middle school teacher has been sentenced to 40 years behind bars after admitting she fed students cupcakes laced with the sperm of her ex-husband and ex-sheriff's lieutenant. Holy shit. Ugh. This is some like Lorena Bobbitt tier type shit. I don't know if you guys remember that. And, oh my god. Cynthia Perkins, worse, definitely worse. Cynthia Perkins, 36, was sentenced Friday to 40 years of hard labor without the possibility of probation or parole. She accepted a plea bargain on Monday to charges that include second-degree rape, producing child pornography, and conspiracy of mingling of harmful substances, according to Louisiana State Attorney General. Oh my god. What the hell is wrong with people? What is going on in this world? Ugh. She's a fucking teacher. The deal requires cooperation against ex-husband Dennis Perkins, 44, former SWAT team commander for the Livingston Parish Sheriff's Office, scheduled to stand trial later this year. For what? What is he? Cynthia Perkins admitted assisting her husband in sexually assaulting a juvenile. Oh. Answer solved. Okay. Questions answered. Helping her husband with a film of juvenile bathing and lacing cupcakes with her then husband's sperm before feeding them to school children. What in the holy fuck is... okay, I understand that, you know, there are some not well people in this world, but this is so wrong on so many levels. Just the unbelievable... What if this was your kid? right? What if this was your kid who got fed these cupcakes or got filmed bathing? Well, this is fucking disgusting, man. And this was a teacher. And he was a cop. Yeah. Real great people right there, man. What the fuck were they thinking with the cupcakes? I just don't get that. How is that? Would that just turn him on or something? Jesus fucking Christ, it's crazy. Was she trying to help him? What? I don't know. It's weird. And then of course, second degree rape. So, and then he, assisting her husband in sexually assaulting a juvenile. So yes, there was rape involved too. Oh my God, look at these people. Cynthia Perkins, defense attorney, told the paper that a lot of thought and deliberation went into the plea negotiations and called the deal his client accepted the best possible outcome. She feels a lot of remorse over what happened. Oh my God. Why would you do something like that? You know, I would have been better off if she would have like murdered him or something like that. You know, in Roblox. Anyways. This is not the kind of case where people are going home happy, but this was the best possible outcome. Oh my gosh. Louisiana Attorney General Jeff Landry said the plea deal spared the victims from reliving her horrific crimes during this particular trial. Prosecutors look forward to holding Dennis Perkins accountable for his crimes in the very near future, Landry said in a statement. So, goddamn. Teacher and a cop. Supposed to teach and serve and protect. Doing awful, horrific things. She's a middle school teacher, guys. Middle school teacher. What the hell is wrong with people? So, I know there's like no way to like really fucking scan or like see if people are doing this beforehand, like on an application or whatever. But God, I think in some certain professions like this one, like these two, for instance, you need a fucking regular psychiatric evaluation because this is way beyond the pale of what should be right in society. And there's got to be some way that we can at least help prevent that a little bit, you know? I don't know. Just sickness. Sick. Man. Some weird shit going on in the world, guys. All right. Do we have time for one more story? Delete that. Yeah, got rid of that. All right. You got through that one. Got through that one. Oh, okay. Here's what we're going to talk about next. So, it's been a while since I did a segment on Trump. I don't know if I've ever done one completely on him. But he's in some hot water right now. It appears he did take classified information from the White House and decided to take it to Mar-a-Lago with him. Not only that, but he seemed to admit some crimes with his own mouth on an interview or a press conference that he was having. So we'll go over that too. But so Trump improperly took away classified material, National Archives says. The U.S. National Archives confirmed on Friday that officials found classified materials and boxes of documents Donald Trump improperly removed from the White House, and that they had alerted the Department of Justice. The disclosure is expected to escalate an investigation by the White House Oversight Committee, the House Oversight Committee, into whether Trump violated the Presidential Records Act of 1978 by removing and destroying White House documents. It looks like he did. I mean, in a letter to the committee, David Ferriero of the National Archives and Records Administration, NARA, said it had identified items marked as classified national security information in the boxes. Because NARA identified classified information in the boxes, he wrote, NARA's staff has been in communication with the Department of Justice. So, was he trying to... I mean, what the fuck was he trying to do with these things? Was this like some attempt to sell state secrets or something like that? Like, do you think this was like some sort of insurance policy for him? I have no fucking clue what this guy thinks when he when he acts on these things. And something about him ripping up toilet paper and shoving it in the toilet of the White House and it having to be plumbed by a professional plumber. So he doesn't seem to want to play by any rules whatsoever. And this does definitely make him look like he's hiding some shit. The agency also confirmed that deleted tweets from Trump's personal account and accounts belonging to top White House officials, including former press secretary Kayleigh McEnany and senior advisor Peter Navarro, have probably been lost forever. Holy shit. So yeah, he's just getting rid of shit. Why would he... There's no reason he wouldn't like have deleted those unless there was something there, right? Like, it doesn't seem like he just willy-nilly goes through and deletes tweets. He doesn't really give a shit what he said before on Twitter. He's not on Twitter anymore, though. Let's see here. The news of potential violations of the Presidential Records Act, which mandates the preservation of the White House documents, came after a series of reports that Trump openly flouted the statute. So yeah, that was talking about him ripping up papers and things like that. The boxes included White House documents considered presidential records, as well as items including love letters from Kim Jong-un of North Korea, a letter left for Trump by the predecessor as president, Barack Obama, and a model of Air Force One with red, white, and blue livery Trump chose. See, that's the thing, is I think he's just dumb and thought that stuff was okay to take. He's like, it's mine. They wrote to me, you know. It's not something that presidents do, is take those kind of documents before they leave. Now, it's not that's not anything I'm too concerned with, though. What this is a little bit more concerning. But some materials in the 15 boxes were marked as classified. The archive said that prompted officials to consult with the DOJ over whether Trump's actions were potentially unlawful. The chair of the House Oversight Committee, Carolyn Maloney, noted last week in opening her investigation that removing or concealing government records is a criminal offense. Trump must be held accountable, the New York Democrats said. So, that is something that's going down right there. And I also wanted to show you guys the other instance there's something on Twitter that's been going viral. Here we go.
The mob takes the Fifth. If you're innocent, why are you taking the Fifth Amendment?
Fast-moving developments in the House probe into January 6th. Alex Jones told his podcast audience he pleaded the Fifth almost 100 times.
Have you seen what's going on in front of Congress? Fifth Amendment, Fifth Amendment, Fifth Amendment.
Mr. Clark intends to invoke the Fifth Amendment privilege against self-incrimination.
Another lawyer involved
Because
in this
they're all
scheme to
fucking
flip the election
guilty.
results. Lawyer
He's like, and Trump's bragging about it. Fifth Amendment, Fifth Amendment, Fifth Amendment. He's like, these guys are all, you know, my cucks. That's what it is.
John Eastman, he too is going to take the Fifth.
Taking the Fifth, I think it's disgraceful.
Trump organization.
He has said that. He has said that right out of the mouth of Mr. Trump there.
Organization's accounting firm now says nearly a decade worth of financial statements can no longer be relied upon, and they cannot represent Donald Trump anymore.
His son, Eric Trump, invoked his right against self-incrimination in response to more than 500 questions.
Fifth Amendment.
President Trump and two of his children must answer questions under oath. That from a judge in New York today.
It's possible he will take the Fifth, take the Fifth, take the Fifth. He won't say anything.
This is like Watergate, only it's worse.
Watergate showed that there was true corruption, so that makes no fucking sense whatsoever. Yeah, a little bit on the crazy side there. Just admitting that, yeah, we're nothing to see here, only our corruption. Jesus.
The mob takes the Fifth. If you're innocent, why are you taking the Fifth Amendment?
So yeah. Oh my God. He is so guilty. I mean, that guy, he's just ridiculously doing everything he can to hide the fact that he is absolutely corrupt. He is probably the most dishonest president we've ever had. And it's finally catching up to him, hopefully. I guess we've seen this before as far as what trouble he's kind of snaked his way out of. But it looks like some people are going to make him testify, but the Fifth can be pleaded. I just can, so let's see if he wiggles his way out of this one. All right, guys. We've got, let's see here. I think 10 minutes. 12 minutes. I am going to take a quick break, go to the restroom, and I will be back so that way I don't have to get up during the debate. And I'm back. Let's see here. Just want to make sure I do have that up. Yep. All right. 9 minutes to go. I wonder if I'll get a chance to play some video games tonight. I'm probably going to do about an hour here with the debate. So that's 2. Yeah. Oh, yeah. We'll get to play some video games after this. I think it's one of those nights. I got through. Oh my gosh. Good thing I got through that story. I am going to do a segment here fairly soon on my positions and on gun control. And not only my positions on gun control, but guns in general. And what I have seen about leftists' general take on gun ownership in the past few years and why things may be changing. It's definitely a subject that I'm pretty interested in, and I've been doing some little bit of research on. You know, you do see prominent leftists that are on YouTube space and Twitch space who have recently bought or talked about buying guns or shot at a range. I believe Hassan did that, and then Vosh has been going a little crazy buying guns lately, which in this day and age it makes a little bit of sense. So let's see here. I'm gonna jump onto this stream real quick.
Eventually, you know, Section 33, I'll perform them eventually.
Let's see. All right.
Someone once told me that the strength to stand alone is the strength to make a stand, to serve a purpose.
Got this freaking ad. So we'll take that out. Well, it appears his stream hasn't even started yet. But it says he's live. Bosch frenemies. Amir Locke. We'll see how much we agree and disagree on here. I don't know. We might have some crossover on the subjects that we're discussing, but maybe not. Jump in here. A couple of minutes early, probably. Da-da-da. All right. We are going to jump in here. Make sure this is muted. All right. He must be starting at that time, because I have not seen anything start yet. Been waiting for this debate for quite a while, actually, so I'm excited to finally get to do it. It's an ad break on right now. But, just waiting for this thing to start. No message yet. This will be a good segment, though. Yeah. So here we go, I believe. It's 10 o'clock. No message yet, though. Wait, is that 10 p.m. or 11 p.m.? Oh, shit. I don't think I'm on for another hour. Oh my gosh. Let's see here. Yeah, that would make sense. All right. Well, shit. Looks like we got time for the other story then that I was gonna do. 10 o'clock. Let's see here. Gosh, I am so tired tonight, guys. It's ridiculous. Ridiculous. Okay. So, something I've noticed over the past few years in the leftist community at large, as well as with my personal views, is that I used to be a lot more anti-gun than I am right now. And I think there's a lot of reasons for that. My main reason is the absolute absurdity and uncertainty of the past 3 or so years. Well, actually, since 2016, to be honest, since the beginning of 2016. So throughout Trump's presidency, I would say probably about halfway through it. So I'd say about 2018, maybe. Yeah, so that would be about 4 years that my opinion started to change on that. I've always thought, I grew up around guns. I grew up around hunting and stuff like that from the area I lived in. And I always kind of, I guess, didn't think of guns one way or another when I was younger. I went hunting with my brother a couple of times, and I've killed an animal. I didn't like it. So I didn't really get into the hunting thing or anything like that. I do remember growing up in some kind of crazy neighborhoods where there was gun violence at times, and I remember my mom being afraid of us sitting on the porch sometimes and stuff like that. So, I mean, I've always had a kind of a weird relationship with that growing up, or really none at all. There was never a gun in our house or anything like that. But I did, like I said, my brother, who's a bit older than me, he had rifles, and so we went hunting. I didn't really hold a handgun until I was 21, I think. So yeah, I probably held one, but I didn't really shoot one until I was 21, and that was at a range. The whole point is that I've never really had an issue with guns before, prior to, I'd say, the last 10 years or so, when you started seeing a lot of mass shootings, and it started becoming more prevalent as body cam footage came out, that there was a massive increase there was massive gun violence against people of color, and by the police themselves, and not just people of color, but poor people in general have been subject to gun violence from the police. So that really turned me off, to say the least. And I became pretty militantly, like, not anti-gun completely. I know that's never going to happen in this country, but I wanted a lot stricter rules on guns. And I still think that there needs to be stricter rules. I think that, well, let's see here. Close. I think that it's a good thing to have a way to protect yourself. I don't think it's a great thing to have a weapon that can slaughter 47 people in a period of 10 seconds, or, that can cause terror like they do, like some of those automatic and semi-automatic weapons do. However, with that said, I've started to want a gun myself simply because of the divisiveness and the anger and vitriol in this country. And simply because it seems like with COVID and Trump being president, kind of drove everybody fucking crazy in one way or another. So it's been on my mind that's something that I've thought about a lot lately. But I did want to go over a couple of articles that kind of talked about the larger issues with guns and how leftists are kind of adopting guns, but in a different way from how right-wingers do. So let's take a look at this. If others have rifles, we'll have rifles. Why U.S. leftist groups are taking up arms. Defend equality. That's kind of a badass hat, to be honest. Just saying. Oh, I gotta register to pay. Okay. We'll do this. There we go. All right. There we go. Let's go back to that. Shit. There we go. Now I can read the damn article. I'm gonna have to clip that out of this segment. Anyways, let's go back to it. The van lumbered down one of Seattle's many steep hills. A half dozen people packed inside, but despite the heat, most wore long pants and boots, and several sported black hoodies. The atmosphere was subdued, except for the occasional joke. It wasn't so much tension as seriousness. There was work to be done. The people in the van are members of the Puget Sound John Brown Gun Club. PSJB. That's why would you make an acronym like that? It just makes no sense. Their stated aim is to fight white supremacy and build community defense in America's Pacific Northwest, and their presence has become a fixture of protests in the Seattle and Tacoma areas, where the group is often invited to provide security against right-wing aggression. Based as fuck. I like it. The night before, several of them had been called to library in nearby Renton, Washington, where a drag story time hour, an event series in which a local drag queen or drag king reads to children in a library or bookstore, was being disrupted by right-wing protesters. The protesters, who opposed the event as immoral, held up signs equating drag with pedophilia. I fucking hate people who do that. And screamed shame, shame at the parents and their kids. Among them were members of the Proud Boys, violent right-wing street gang, and 3 Percenters militia, who were open carrying firearms. Okay, the first thing I've got to say about this is that they were open carrying firearms around a child. Around several children, as a matter of fact. That is probably the most amoral thing you can do, is to go to a place where children are being read to and have firearms, out open carrying to threaten them. So of course, what are you going to do? You got to have people there to protect in those situations. Which is, I think, what we're about to read about. The Northwest has been at the center of tense political clashes over the last 2 years. The area is an adopted home base for the far-right group like Patriot Prayer, Identity Europa, American Identity Movement, and the Proud Boys. who have organized numerous marches that have ended in violence. Excuse me. In response, a range of leftist groups have organized self-defense groups and, in doing so, present gun ownership as a way to protect themselves and others. Now, the Puget Sound John Brown Gun Club was en route to Seattle's Trans Pride March. In the weeks prior, word spread that a number of white supremacist groups had planned to disrupt the celebration. Hearing this, the club reached out to the organizers of the event, the Gender Justice League, and offered to assist with security or to provide escorts. God, these guys are badass. All right. So what are you going to do if there's people there with guns threatening you? Hire a fucking leftist fucking base security force. That's what you should do. Jesus. We need more stuff like this in my area. It's not going to happen, though. Brooke Wiley, the head of security for the Gender Justice League, in charge of overseeing the 101-person security detail for the event, did some research on the club. She told them the event had a policy of having no open carry, that is, no visible weapon, which they were fine with. She accepted their offer. Police were also present, but many marginalized groups do not trust them to provide protection at public events, especially when far-right groups are involved. Yes, because the police, a lot of them, are far-right. I wouldn't be surprised if several police officers in this area are either affiliated with or actually in the Proud Boys themselves. Each member showed up with a concealed handgun. We do our actions proportional to the threat. So when other people are out with rifles, we'll be out with rifles, the group's de facto spokesperson explained. In this case, we don't want to appear threatening for the people that we're trying to protect and support. We want this to be a happy excuse me. We want this to be a happy atmosphere, especially for a population that may have faced gun violence on the streets just for being who they are. It's a good point, you know. And a lot of leftists aren't pro-gun whatsoever. So that could be a situation too. This scenario, in which armed community groups are working together to patrol a pride event and protect it from other malicious and potentially armed groups, is becoming more and more common. There are more guns than people in America, approximately 393 million in a country of 328 million people. An average of 34,501 people died each year from firearms in 2018. 992 of those deaths were the result of police shootings. Ugh. So, I feel like we're at a crossroads with gun culture in America. I think that leftists are starting to understand that we're giving the stupidest fucking people all of the power by having them be the only ones with the guns. You know, having people who are less than smart. I mean, you see it all the time. You see kids getting shot with their parents' guns because the parents left the gun in the back seat because they're fucking crazy. They're fucking red, white, and blue flag Glock 9 sitting next to their fucking 4-year-old. Shit like that happens all the time. And then they seem to talk about proper gun usage and stuff. It's the way that they are pro-gun is separate from the way that many leftists are becoming pro-gun, and I'll talk about that more later. In the memory of the Pulse nightclub shooting in 2016, when 49 people were killed in a mass shooting at a gay nightclub in Florida, is still hanging heavily over the LGBTQ community. Though throughout the day, Puget Sound members stood watch over sections of the park, staying connected via walkie-talkies. "Thank you for being here" was a common refrain from marchgoers. as were inquiries on how to join. The group has a several month-long vetting process and probationary period for prospective recruits. That's fucking smart too, man. See, this is why leftists are responsible with guns and things like. They don't want an infiltration into their group. They don't want somebody who's gung-ho, who's just gonna fly off the handle and shoot somebody they're not supposed to, or start an altercation. It's a very good thing to do. Unlike some of the other masked anti-fascist groups at a march that day, the Puget Sound John Brown Gun Club consider themselves to be an above-ground organization and choose not to cover their faces. Part of the reason we don't cover our faces is that we don't want to present as though we're a militia, Foz, a longtime member, explained. We are not. We want to build relationships with people in our community. We want to be appear approachable. Yeah, you don't see this from gun clubs or militias on the right. There's not ever... They don't give a shit about that. Like, that's not something that they care about, right? Let's see here. While the group has not used deadly force, a former member of the group, William Van Sprossen, recently made headlines when he was killed by police after trying to set fire to ICE vehicles in a parking lot outside the Northwest Detention Center in Tacoma, Washington, a private immigration detainment facility. Oh, ICE. They didn't even fucking capitalize that. I was like, ICE vehicles? What are you talking about, ICE vehicles? That's supposed to be capitalized. It's a fucking acronym. Jesus. There's been a couple of typos in this. That's the one that got me, though. You don't want to be the Antifa cop. Gun control advocates are quick to point out that more guns often means more violence, no matter the intent behind them. A recent Stanford's university study challenged that long-standing conservative view that more guns equals less crime, finding that adopted right-to-carry laws, which legalize concealed carry, saw a 13% increase in violent crime over 10 years. Yeah, I mean... it makes complete sense that the more guns, the more crime. Right? I don't see where there's a logical, like, disconnect here. If somebody has a gun on them, as opposed to sitting in their nightstand for protection when they're at home, for home invasions or whatnot, for somebody who carries it on them, whether it's concealed or not, means that they'll have an opportunity to use the gun, right? And more people with the opportunity to use the gun, some good, some bad, there's going to be more violence with guns. It doesn't matter. Let's see here. Washington State's relatively loose gun laws mean that even those with a minimal training are able to show up to public events armed, which has potentially lethal implications. At a Milo Yiannopoulos rally at the University of Washington in 2017, an anti-fascist protester was shot in the stomach by a Trump supporter named Elizabeth Hokoana, who then claimed self-defense. If convicted, she faces up to 15 years in prison. Yeah. It's always the people, like, you never hear about this stuff happening with people on the left. And then she tries to claim self-defense. It's crazy. This is the context in which an armed community defense group has been invited to protect Trans Pride event. The thinking goes that since there are already guns everywhere and the people who want to hurt minority groups are often heavily armed, their side may as well have guns too. When asked about how they would react if a survivor of gun violence came up and confronted them about their decision to bring guns into a public protest space, the Puget Sound Gun Club members say that they would approach the situation with empathy. A member of the Seraphiad pointed to their own history with gun violence as a starting point. See, I love it. Empathy. That's what is needed in this situation. Empathy. You don't. If you have a good amount of empathy, you're going to be less likely to use a gun, and you're going to be more sympathetic with people when you're considering what you say to them when they've been victims of gun violence, which will help your argument in the long run, right? For many other left-leaning organizations, guns remain a difficult topic. The Second Amendment has attained almost religious significance to some conservative gun owners. While gun control has become a defining issue for centrists and liberals, the opinions of those on the more radical left vary. Yeah, so that tends to be the thing. The people who are more on the socialist, anarchist, communist side, even democratic socialists, seem to be more in favor of guns these days. The Democratic Socialists of America, for example, responded to an interview requesting for this piece by saying, "The DSA has no comment on gun controls or the Second Amendment. Our members represented a diversity of viewpoints on this topic," which makes sense. Others have been more forthcoming. Patrick Blanchfield, the author of a forthcoming book on guns in the left called Gun Power, doesn't specifically oppose the idea of armed self-defense, but he sees it as a potential danger to both the individuals as well as a broader group of the community. Referencing the government's brutal assaults on the Black Panthers as a historical example. That's true too. But that doesn't mean... So... if the left were ever to be stuck in a situation where they were being completely oppressed, like there was a violent insurgence against the left, which could happen any fucking day, it seems like sometimes. If that were the case, then because of the left's, especially the liberal left's, distaste for guns, most of them would be slaughtered pretty easily. So that can be scary too. Now I know that's a little bit of a reach, like as far as, you know, this stuff may not come to that. Like maybe people think that's hyperbolic, but it's really not, it seems like these days. Blanchfield also sees an issue with the way armed groups have the potential to inadvertently replicate existing oppressive structures. You don't want to be the Antifa cop, he explains. For example, I would need some convincing that armed leftists didn't shoot partners at a rate substantially lower than non-leftists. Well, I mean, that's a good point. There were swastikas in my kid's park. The Puget Sound chapter is a part of a long American leftist tradition of armed groups, from the Black Panthers to current groups like the Redneck Revolt. The Socialist Rifle Association, Trigger Warning, Queer and Trans Gun Club, and Los Angeles Black Coyote Collective. 21 members turned up that day. Nick Faza and a member who goes by Reverend were joined by Kat, a diminutive, self-described soccer mom, quiet, serious vixen with strawberry blonde hair and orange knee socks, Duke, the group's stocky, bearded founder, and Shannon, a civil rights attorney and constitutional law professor. That's a pretty interesting group of people, to be honest. Like a leftist soccer mom, some guy named Reverend. Yeah, you don't, I mean, I feel like left or right, or like groups on the right that are gun clubs are pretty typecast, if you know what I mean. It's hard to tell them apart. There are plenty of anarchists among their ranks, but there are also people like Shannon who feel strongly about the Second Amendment and who are more interested in working within existing frameworks than tearing them down. There's power in the knowledge of the Constitution, he explains. It's okay to be a knowledgeable person whose politics are left of center, and willing to understand and fight back with within the legal framework. It's pretty base too. Yeah, most soccer moms don't say things like that. especially right-wing soccer moms. So Duke, a lifelong anarchist who founded the Seattle chapter in 2017, describes himself as having retired from activism following the birth of his son in 2012. He did normal progressive Seattle dad things like taking his family back to Black Lives Matter and Fight for 15 rallies until 2017, when he was inspired to act following the election of Donald Trump, and more specifically by the proliferation of hate crimes that plagued Seattle during its lead up. So, you know, it's kind of interesting how there are groups that came out of this that were from Trump's reign of terror on this country that were good things. I mean, like you get backlash, right? So you got these leftist gun groups that are coming out of it, and that's exactly what I was saying before. It kind of there's a sea change, and especially on the farther left, on their opinion on guns, and it's because of the threat of fascism that is there, that has never been there before in our lifetime. After Charlottesville, there was this recognition that there has to be somebody who's not on the right, who's willing to be in places that law enforcement either isn't willing to be, or where law enforcement is supporting fascists, Shannon explains. When you see law enforcement escorting Nazi groups in parades in places like DC or Detroit, you realize that there's a space to be filled by people who are confident in their skill as gun owners, but whose bigger mission is community defense and protection. It's so fucking based, man. I'm really digging the whole like idea of this, the whole motto behind it, the whole mission statement. It's definitely something that I could get behind as far as gun rights are concerned. Let's see here. For Vixen, the decision to join came from threats of right-wing extremism poses to her identity. A trans woman who grew up shooting guns off her front porch in Indiana, she spoke about the toxic culture she had encountered at many gun ranges and the obligation she felt to protect her queer community. Today I'm a trans woman at Trans Pride, so I feel like I'm personally able to step in front of and put myself in front of people who are being attacked or harassed, or just try to de-escalate the situation, which is always the goal. Which is unlike many right-wing militias and things whose goal is to incite violence. So that is definitely something that's good about people on the left owning guns. See, this is just I'm glad that there are finally some open discussion on the left about guns in general. Like I said, I was right there with everybody for the most part after so many school shootings and stuff. And I still think, like I said, that there needs to be some major changes in gun laws. That there needs to be some more hurdles to actually purchasing a gun, right? But if the right's going to fucking own arsenals, even their 10-year-old kids own arsenals, it's probably a good idea in the political climate that we're in, that we be able to protect ourselves. I didn't want to read through this whole article, so I wanted to go over a couple of other things that I found on Reddit here that pertain to the same subject. What is your opinion on leftist progressives, liberals, etc., who are in favor of owning gun rights? So, just a couple of interesting things I saw here. I can speak for myself as a liberal gun owner. I inherited a bunch of guns. I've bought a couple myself. I enjoy shooting them. I'm a mechanical engineer, so I nerd out on the engineering aspect of them. See, yeah, that's another thing, man. We got all the engineers and nerds on our side. We can nerd out about the best way to be safe with guns and the mechanical uses of them, so they don't, misfire or whatnot. such a simple concept, but they can be so complicated. With that said, gun violence in the U.S. is ridiculous. I've been saying this for years, that if a two-way crowd doesn't make some concessions, then they'll end up with something a lot worse. Conservatives have given absolutely no solutions to gun violence. Even the ones that say it's a mental health issue don't do anything to advocate for mental health. Yeah, this is fucking true. I hate it when there's always after a mass shooting, first of all, they say, this isn't a time to talk about legislation right now. This is a time for mourning. They do this all the fucking time, right? And then when it comes time to talk about legislation, they say, oh, well, this is a mental health issue. It's not a gun control issue. It's a mental health issue. But then we say, okay, well, maybe we should have a system where everybody has free at the point of access healthcare and mental health care. They're like, oh no, we couldn't. How we're gonna pay for that? Blah 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 blah. So it's a roundabout thing. They're never going to be good with doing anything about gun violence in this country, even when they say they want to do something about mental health. They're not. They don't care. I'm in favor of researching the causes of gun violence and acting accordingly. I suspect a lot of it comes down to economic factors, education, healthcare, as well as easy access to firearms. I think common sense gun legislation like universal background checks are also a no-brainer. Yeah, that's like the most simple thing that we can do. If a classroom full of 5 to 6 year olds get murdered and we don't do anything about it, maybe we deserve to get our guns taken away. And that's from a gun owner, you know. That's responsible gun ownership right there. And that's what it looks like. Let's see here, what else? What do you think about assault weapon bans? I personally think the whole term is misleading. You can't fully ban them for the prior reason. And finally, even if you could, it would be treating the symptoms, not the disease. Oh, well, first, easy access to guns is the first problem. So it's more like treating one of the causes. You mean one of the symptoms? Yeah, like treating one of the symptoms. I would assume that's what they meant. Second, I'm torn on them. We know that legislators are terrible at defining what they are, and people will find workarounds to loosely defined elements of an assault weapon. Yet assault rifles are almost always involved with the worst mass shootings in this country. This is true. They need to be better at defining their language on these things. Things like, talking about bump stocks, talking about any gun. You could be even more specific. Any gun that has a rate of fire of this is not legal within city limits, or it's not legal to own unless you are, I guess, in the military when they have those. Well, no, you can't own them at home, but you can have them in the military. You know what I mean? So those are a couple of things that are no-brainers to do. Same thing. The FBI tracks homicides by weapon types, and handguns are responsible for the overwhelming majority of gun murders, like 80 to 90%, compared to rifles of 4 to 5%. And that's not just AR-15s, but all rifles. Yes, but here's the thing. This loses the nuance, which is the fact that mass shootings are a thing that happen, right? And so this amount of gun violence would probably be reduced quite a bit if there wasn't guns with a rate of fire that could kill, 100 people in just a couple of minutes, right? Like, I think there's been up to like 47 people killed in one school shooting. I was that Parkland or I can't remember exactly which one it was, but I think that was the record there. And it all happened in a matter of minutes, right? So this is kind of misleading in saying that, you know, it's all handguns. Because, yeah, handguns, like, you kill individuals or maybe a couple of people with a handgun, whereas with a semi-automatic rifle assault weapon, you can kill fucking 40 people in 2 minutes, right? So, there is something to be said there. Let's see here. I'm a pro-gun liberal who owns guns, grew up with guns hunting, and goes shooting at the shooting range. But I also passionately believe in reasonable restrictions, regulations, laws surrounding guns. Being pro-gun doesn't mean that I like the toxic gun culture that a lot of people have fallen into. I think that the constant brushing off of the very real problem with gun violence and dismissing any attempt to properly address it is idiotic. Very well said. So, I think this should be a thing. I think this should be more of a thing where more leftists are out there showing people exactly what responsible gun ownership is, and more leftists should own guns. I think. It's just something that I'm more of an advocate for these days. You know, I used to think, well, you know, more guns, more gun violence. Yeah, of course. But at the same time, you see that maybe we can set a better example. Not only that, but if something really shitty does happen in this country where militia groups start killing people just because they think they're socialists or leftists or whatever, then it's going to be good to have some sort of way to protect yourself. And not only that, but I think that there is something to be said about the amount of right-wing terrorism in this country, right? You're already seeing it. You're seeing groups that are becoming more and more militant, more and more violent. And it's a scary, scary world we live in. But I think the thing is that I think that leftists would be better gun owners than conservatives, and probably are in many, many cases. Because we understand the power of such a fucking weapon. We understand that when you point that at somebody, you could potentially be taking their life and taking everything from them. And not only do we work more based upon empathy, I think, for the most part, than a lot of people on the right, and work a lot less from a place of hatred and fear, we're going to be less likely to make shitty mistakes with guns. It just seems like something that's pretty cut and dry to me. You know, it seems like a lot of people, especially far-right extremist people, want to kill somebody. They want to do it. They're hoping to. That's why they want an arsenal. And that's why they are so antagonistic as well. So this is something that we need to think about more as leftists, I think. We really need to make sure that we're giving some thought to being responsible gun owners ourselves, because the right sure as shit are not responsible. And you know, if they're going to abuse the Second Amendment, we should at least be able to utilize it. So yeah, if you're a leftist, don't be afraid to believe that you can be a gun owner and be responsible about it. and not contribute to the toxic gun culture that's in this country. Because who knows, someday we may need to band together, you know, in defense of this country from fascism and things like that. You know, in the way future, on Roblox, whatever. But that's all I got to say about that. All right. I am quite exhausted. Not tired necessarily, guys. I am just... It's been a long, long week. I'll tell you that. Let's see how we're going here. See if his stream started here.
Shit, yeah.
All right. I forgot I got to type it in. There we go. All right. So I got a stream pulled up here. So we got about 18 minutes until it's time to go. Just muting ads right now. Oh, man. And that'll be, let's see here, 2, 3. Oh, we might play video games after. We'll see.
Knock raid on a homicide suspect's residence and who killed somebody who had a gun within that residence.
So this is who we're debating, guys.
Individually arrested. Can we just think about why that's dumb for like 30 seconds? It's the system. You fucking morons. You goddamn baboons. It's the system. It's the fact that we have shitty education leading to shitty kids becoming shitty teenagers, dealing drugs and killing each other, and then cops go after them. The problem is like 15 years before the shooting, and to individually arrest a law enforcement officer participating in that fucking system is such a fucking nuclear dumb fuck take that it's actually frustrating that it comes out of somebody who's so smart. Okay? So, this is my battle. Okay? I get that I might have been a little bit hyperbolic, but excuse me, he was a little hyperbolic in his take. So, if you want to look at the system and how to reform the system and how to get kids early childhood education, good schools, break the crime cycles that some families are trapped in, and break the educational cycles that some families are trapped in, so you can reduce their willingness and ability to participate in criminal activity that leads to cops kicking down their families' fucking doors and then killing their family members, then you have to deal with the fucking system. Arresting a law enforcement officer who fucking shot somebody inside a murder suspect's fucking residence who had a gun within a fucking second to second and a half fucking decision window is the stupidest fucking prescription that I can think of in order to address this.
Yeah.
So no, I think that, so somebody asked in chat.
Okay, so just a little bit, I agree with him that we do need to look at systemic issues, but at the same time, he's also wrong that there should be no accountability held by the cops themselves. The no-knock warrant shouldn't have been a thing. There were already a moratorium on them in that situation. So that's something that I think is a little bit of a problem, is that's problematic, is that take on things. I'm assuming Counterpoints believes in the Second Amendment, you know, to own a gun. The guy legally had a gun. He was not named in the warrant. There's no reason that they should have broken into that house without, you know, knocking, and it caused somebody to die. It's not his fault. And I believe that that police officer should at least be reprimanded, you know,
by case. But let's go ahead and pause there. But basically, I wanted to briefly go over a mirror lock, briefly go over my difficulties with Vosh, and yeah, so we'll take it from there. And I do see some people asking if the Discord is in public. It's not public. It's private. I'll put it at the end of the show, and then we'll take it from there. So I'll appreciate it. So why do I look younger? It's because I buzzed my beard. Da 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 da. Sorry, I'm singing the Halo theme because there was a. Okay, so I addressed the do no knocks need to be banned. I wonder what AJW's take on the shooting is. I bet he says black people need to act better so they don't get killed sitting in their own home. Listen, I'm sure you could find that video and tell me about it. So, all right, cool. So let's leave that. And then let's take a little bit of a breather. We only got 15 minutes left, and basically I want to make fun of some people on the internet. Ugh. And we're going to have to be brief because at midnight we're going to be rolling right into a one-on-one conversation / debate with Qizmhet or or something like that. He has a very cute Twitter name. So, you guys ready? Silent Rip, favorite track from the Halo 3 soundtrack at Counterpoints. Go! I only know one Halo song.
That's me.
Da-da-da-da. Da-da-da-da.
All right. So we got a few minutes here.
All right, that's enough of that.
Maybe we should pick out what video game we would play tonight. I wanted to look over some stuff. Yeah, like I've been trying to. Let's see here. Wonder that. So yeah. So I've been looking over. See, this is the ones that I have downloaded over here. I don't know if you can see that. This is probably cut off. But yeah. So we've got some different things on here. We got Hollow Knight, Maneater. I've been really thinking about doing some No Man's Sky on stream. I think someday soon. Probably update. Damn it. Is it updating? Update. And Outer Wilds was something I wanted to maybe get into too, because that's a fun, cute little game. But yeah, there is some, like, I kind of wanted to go over through Game Pass here, and you know, there's some, we got oh fuck. I wonder if this is going to be on Total War Warhammer 3. I wonder if they're going to have that on just PC, or if they have that on console. I'll have to look a little bit later. But that could be fun. I thought about doing some Ark too, because I thought I needed to get involved in some new or some like online games would be fun, like talking to people while streaming, or you know, playing with other people, which I have not gotten to do a lot. I still love doing the politics thing, but I think I should mix it up a little bit, you know? So that would be fun to do. Picks for me. Maybe some Halo Infinite too. I'll tell you what. I am super excited for Elden Ring to come out. I don't know why, like I need to get back into Valheim too. But where's that at? Yeah. Well, let's see here. Store. Now available on Steam. Let's see here. What's new and noteworthy? Popular upcoming. Elden Ring. Yeah, baby. This needs to go on my wish list. We're definitely gonna be looking into that. What do they got else coming up new? Elix 2. Yes. I gotta finish Elix 1 too. Babylon's Fall. Forspoken. Huh. That looks interesting. Alright, we just got a few minutes left, guys. Let's see if see if he's responded yet.
Pretending that the United States are a bunch of fucking saints, but I think we've tried to have rapprochement with Russia in the past, and what they've done instead is they've basically said, yeah, sure, we'd like to be friendly with you, but also we want to do whatever the fuck we want to do whenever we want to do it. Examples being that they literally, like, a Russian spy defected to the UK. They literally stabbed him with, like, radioactive fucking poison while he was standing at a fucking bus stop, and they killed him using radioactive poisoning on UK soil. They also have run a fucking, like, mafia-style oligarchy for the past couple of decades, and as a result, they've disappeared quite a few fucking Russian oligarchs as a result. Putin has, like, rotated between, like, the prime minister position and the fucking vice presidency and the presidency for the past, like, 2 or 3 fucking decades in order to maintain power.
Yeah.
And it maintains, like, fucking footsie fucking relationships
All these
with
things
other
are true.
shitbag fucking countries in order to avoid American hegemony. So, I get it. You can hate American empire. You can be an anti-imperialist fucking anti-American fucking dickhead. But then, don't fucking spread, you know, number one, misinformation. Number two, don't bring up moral fucking arguments that are so easy to fucking break down, literally, in opposition for the person that you're fucking fighting for. Hassan's a goddamn idiot and he can go fuck himself. That's basically what I wanted to do. So we got 8 minutes left. So, not controversial at all. Let's go see how our buddy Destiny is doing. Oh, no. I guess we're not going to... Okay, so I just wanted to mention this. You can figure it out on your own. Destiny and Lauren Southern. Destiny basically asked Lauren Southern to do a League of Legends cosplay, like a sexy cosplay, while he was high and on Twitter. And Lauren Southern basically asked him to cosplay a black character, and Destiny agreed.
What?
And then Lauren posted a black shoe shine, like a black face polish fucking product so Destiny could buy it. Now, of course, this is all fucking shit posting, but considering that, like, Destiny has gotten in trouble for playing footsie with fucking Lauren relationship-wise, and Lauren has been accused of being fucking racist in the past, one, I think it's funny. I'm just not laughing right now because I know there's a lot of leftists who don't think that's funny. But two, basically they're playing with fucking fire, and basically I think somebody fucked with Destiny's stash. One time he did, he thought he was doing ecstasy, and it ended up being methamphetamine. And I'm pretty sure somebody's fucking with Destiny's stash again, where he thinks it's like ecstasy and it's just fucking meth again.
I could see that.
It's weed, but it's like laced with LSD or some shit. That's the only thing that I can think to explain it. Finally, basically what I said was there was a news snippet in which I said we would deserve a meteor because Victoria's Secret signed a model with Down syndrome. This is gonna be the ableist segment of the show. Okay.
Uh-oh.
And by the way, so I got a lot of counter arguments in the replies, and the reason why I didn't reply to them is because they had nothing to do with my problem with what's going on. Okay. So number one, a lot of the arguments came around agency for
I probably won't agree with him on
Down
this one.
syndrome. IPA, what the fuck are you bitching about? You want it warmer? You want it colder? You want me to be blue? You want me to be orange? Fuck you want. It's fine. Stop bitching. Holy shit. Anyways, sorry. IPA and I fight about my lighting. So anyways. So a Down syndrome model basically got signed with Victoria's Secret. And I said, we're going to deserve the meteor when we get here. And a lot of the arguments that came my way weren't even things that I disagreed with. They were like, hey, she has agency. She is an adult. She's making adult decisions. If you look at interviews, she's a relatively, intelligent person or whatever. So it seems like she's doing something that's good for her. Awesome. Listen, I tattooed myself on the Odyssey games, which is basically just like live stream Fear Factor, and I ate a fucking spider, okay? You get that bag, all right? You want to show your fucking titties on fucking whatever, you do it. I have a moral objection to it, but if this is your fucking version of self-empowerment, I don't give a fuck. You do you, okay? But that being said, what's weird for me is the blatant sexualization of somebody with a mental disability and us acting like this is empowerment. So, if she's a model and she can model clothing, I don't know, Gap, American Eagle, Hollister, JCPenney.
So yeah, we got a couple of minutes here. Let's see.
Nordstrom. I'm trying to think of what else. There's a whole bunch of fucking brands that just do clothing. And of course, Down syndrome people can be fashionistas and they can love things that are fashionable and she can be a model and this, that, the other. But no, I'm not like a Christian literalist, Nullacede. Appreciate it though. But all of that being said, sexualizing somebody with a mental disability,
all
I
right,
find
we're about to go on
distasteful.
here.
So, I was a little bit uncharitable, and this is basically what I put. My take, wanking to people with Down syndrome as a part of an inclusivity campaign should be the last of our social priorities. This isn't a good take, sweetie. There's time to delete this, yikerinos. I'm pretty much good with my take. And, there's a decent chunk of people who are laughing at this one. I didn't get ratioed on the other one, but there was a lot of people in the fucking replies. Holy shit, look at all these goddamn replies. I hate starting discourse. It's the fucking worst. But anyways, if I'm going to suffer, you're going to suffer. So, here's the model, and you make a decision on your own about whether or not you think this is an appropriate use of this model's talent. There you go. Here you go. So, is this appropriate? Is this a part of our society that we should embrace?
I don't see anything wrong with it.
You answer that fucking question on your own. I don't really give a shit. So, yeah. Good for her. Rondo says, what's wrong with the model modeling? I don't know. You decide. That was a tweet that somebody else liked, and then we're running up on the debate time. So, let's do it. Courtney Cole, first-time live viewer, but I've seen you on panels. Love the show. Thank you, Courtney. Even if I've just done something ableist or something that you find distasteful, thank you for the $9.99. Sincerely appreciated. Let me go ahead and DM our good friend on Twitter.
Okay, here we go.
You ready? Question mark. And then you guys entertain yourselves in the chat. Argue about whether or not it's okay to jerk off to models with...
Let's get that turned down. There we go. See if he responds here. I'm actually in his Discord, so.
people with Down syndrome need to wear model clothing too. And then I'm like, okay, well, at least they're not saying like, hey, let me jerk off to this model, and then I got fucking, who is it?
All right, here we go. We got the
Schrodinger's meme.
Let's get that out. We're gonna go under here. All right, we'll see here.
Oh man.
Hello?
Yeah, hey, what's up, buddy?
Hey, what's going on?
Oh, same old. Looks like your camera is loading. I don't know if you're
Yeah,
gonna
give me a second here.
No problem. Same. All right, Qizmhet, I got a question for you before we begin.
Yeah.
Did you ever have the dishonor of using women's fashion magazines for sexual inspiration as a teenager, or did you grow up in the internet era?
Well, I'm in my 40s, so I mean, it's definitely something that I've done before. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, hey, how about you introduce yourself? We got about 94 people on YouTube. We got 22 people on Twitch. Thank you to everybody for being here. This is my buddy Qizmhet. Please tell us a little bit about yourself, what your political background is, and then also what you wanted to discuss tonight. And then I'm going to get you on my full camera. Oh my God. Let's do this. And then, sorry, 1 second.
Oh, you're good.
Display capture. I'm a boomer, so you're gonna have to forgive me, but it's done.
I'm doing the same thing right
yourself.
now too, actually. So let's see here. All right. My name is Qizmhet. I guess a heathen leftist is what most people would consider me. But I think that like my guiding principles, my axioms are empathy and critical thinking, and I think that there are a lot of people on both sides that have those abilities. I just typically align more with leftist values. And just
go ahead.
Real quick, you can find me. It's Vertigo Veritas TV on Twitch, as well as YouTube.
Okay, awesome. And then you specifically use the term heathen. Do you view yourself as like particularly like anti-religious?
I guess that's kind of a joke. Well, I am okay. So I used to be a lot more of a hardcore atheist. I guess I've softened in my old age a bit. I would consider myself much more of an agnostic these days, because I think it's one of those things where there's no way to tell one way or another. So why would I make any definite claims one way or another whether there was a God or not? So that's where I kind of stand up.
Oh no, cool. That's I think that's based. I think we all go through like a fucking religion isn't real, God's not real, fuck you, fedora phase. So the fact that it's evolved into a little bit of a more chill version of that is cool. I appreciate
Sure.
that.
Well, I'm not a I used to be a big fan of Richard Dawkins until I found out what an asshole he was. So it's not somebody that I'm a big fan of anymore either.
See that, but this is why I don't trust critical thinking, because critical thinking is, it's critical until it's not. You know what I'm saying? You find you find some subject that you're a fucking chud or a dumbass on, and then you're just exposed as a chud and a dumbass. So, you know, that's why I don't even trust my own critical thinking skills.
Sure. Well, and it's always good to keep an open mind, but like as my mom used to say to me, keep an open mind, but not so open that your brains fall out, right? So it's
Nice.
no, seriously. So that's the thing though, is you just kind of want to you want to expose yourselves to many different points of view, and then use your empathy, your critical thinking, whatever you want to call it, and your ability to discern from past experiences the best way to view those things, I guess, to have takes on those things. So that's typically what I do. The name of my channel, is Vertigo Veritas TV. It's kind of like, in this world, it's like so confusing to figure out what the truth is these days, and so the channel is kind of a journey to discover what exactly the truth of every matter is.
Yeah, 100%. And then if I remember correctly, oh shit, can you hear me okay?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, that's just my headset. So basically, what I would say is, I think you DM'd me about electoralism and electoral politics in particular.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have been like super strongly blackpilled about like electoralism recently, but I wouldn't mind hearing what you have to say on that. And then flexibly, just saying like, I love beach balling, I love tangenting. So if there's any subject that kind of pops up and you're like, ooh, that's interesting, let's nail that down or whatever, I'm super happy to jump all over the place. I think my chat's used to my attention deficit disorder at this point.
I got a bit of ADD myself, so that's fine. The thing that I was most how's my mic sound, by the way? It
actually sounds great.
Okay.
I was just asking for the balance because I'm a fucking boomer, so sometimes people are super loud and I'm super quiet. But
okay.
Yeah, it sounds great to me.
Awesome. Well, the thing that the reason I wanted to bring up that subject is I felt like, with you being center right and me being left, we may even have some crossover on that subject as far as on the basics of how electoral politics work, and what's wrong with them in today's day and age. So one of the things that I was really interested in talking about was the money in politics, for one, and how that affects voting rights for people in the country, and also things like the filibuster and how that affects different types of legislation.
You don't have the destiny take that people can pour endless amounts of money into politics and it's not a big deal and don't worry about it?
Yeah, no, I do not have that view at all.
Not at all. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
no. And see, dude, this is my frustration. So let me. I want to get at it from two angles, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So the one angle is, I think I'm with you that, like, on a moral basis, it just makes sense that if somebody is dumping money into politics, then obviously they're going to get listened to more than people who don't have money, right?
Exactly.
I think that is a fair assessment of reality. Mm-hmm. But then I do have a question, or at least I fight myself on this.
Okay.
Basically my concern is, if money is used as a weather vane to figure out like where people are at and how much they care about something, then is like money and effort and all that kind of stuff actually like an okay metric to go by? And then if it's not, then what do we do? Just popularity? And then if we're doing popularity, I'm not a direct democracy kind of person.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd kind of be curious about like where your passions lie with that subject.
So I think in a perfect world, money in politics would be an okay thing, but we're not in a perfect world. We're in a world where there's an extreme amount of inequality financially in other areas as well. So it's something like that we need to take into account, that maybe the representatives of this country shouldn't be beholden to people with large amounts of money, because then over half of the country are not going to get represented in the way that they're supposed to be represented, right? So you have companies like ExxonMobil and the military-industrial complex feeding money into these politicians. I mean, you can kind of see some of this stuff. I mean, I have some strong views on Ukraine and the situation going on in Russia, for instance. But I think that we should probably, if they've asked for our help them. But at the same time, I do know that there are a lot of incentives for the military industrial complex to have this happen as well too. So I don't think that they're completely neutral when they're talking to our politicians in Congress and also to the president.
Well, yeah. So actually, I wouldn't mind picking your brain on this because this is another thing that I wrestle with. So we are the beneficiaries. So I'm a military veteran actually, and I kind of struggled because there was like a real G.I. Joe kind of like narrative to the American military, right? Which is especially in the 90s. I think I'm a little bit younger than you, but not much younger. And so basically the narrative goes, Americans are the underdogs. We're the cowboys, right? And then World War II happens, and those evil Nazis try to liquidate all the Jews, and then the American saviors come in to save the day, but too late. And then we try to save the Jews, and then ever since then, we've been like the moral authority on the world stage, trying to defeat evil communism. And then not only that, but up until the defeat of communism, we've done some shady shit, but it was all justified in the end. And now we're like the world police. That's kind of like the narrative that I was told as a kid. But then it was weird as hell because you have this like underdog mentality, but you're not an underdog. You're a fucking empire.
Oh yeah.
And so that's where for me, on one hand, I want to be critical of the empire. On the other hand, I see it as like a necessity for like global trade. So how do you parse that out mentally?
Sure, and I mean you can kind of see this with China, how there's like cognitive dissonance with how we deal with China. You know, where we are one of their largest trade partners, but at the same time we condemn them in many ways as well. We especially a lot of times during the Trump administration, he was kind of back and forth with them. It's kind of one of those things where you have to kind of, I don't know if you can completely compartmentalize things, but at the same time you kind of have to. Now with Russia, it's a little bit of a different story. There's like some active aggression going on there that I believe is something that we should be past in the 21st century, right? Like the military annexation of countries. I think that's typically a no-no for most of the world. Like they tend to believe that these days. It still happens in smaller countries and things like that, but
so you're not from the Hassan Piker. You're not from the Hassan Piker like school of geopolitics that like actually it was Russia's all along, and it's actually Russians annexed.
No, and I've actually had some major issues with his takes on this as of late. I align probably. I've watched some content of Bosch's that I align with a little bit as far as how he sees that he's pretty much sure that there's some shady business going on with Russia. I mean, I just did a story about how they're amassing helicopters like 50 miles from the border right now. There's a bridge that popped up out of nowhere overnight that's connecting certain areas for strategic purposes. And then there's all the allegations of false flags and attacks from the Ukraine, things like that. So it just seems like, Putin's trying to set himself up so that he can be the victim in order to go in and do this annexation. Is what it looks like to me.
Well, and then I guess that's my question is so how do you feel about that like rift in that civil war? Because it seems like there's people who do, they do like a consistent moral calculus where if somebody is doing something wrong, it doesn't matter who's doing it, it's wrong. That's one way to view the world. And then it seems like other people are doing like a political calculus where they're like, oh, well, it's against the American empire and I'm against the American empire, therefore it's based. So like, how do you feel about like, well, the reason why I'm asking this is because like with lefties in particular, it seemed like, in righties too, they claim like a certain amount of like moral authority where they're like, we're so good, look at how bad the other side is, and we're not like that. But then it seems to me like in these kinds of scenarios, you can see like, oh no, there's actually like a decent chunk of dumbasses like everywhere.
Oh yeah. Well, and I was just talking about this today, for instance, the Ukraine has a lot of white supremacists in it, for instance, right? Like there's there's a big show of that in their military as well. Like there's a lot of people who are involved in white supremacist groups that are part of the Ukrainian military, more so in the like, I guess, insurgency areas that are to the east. But still, I mean, it's something like you kind of have a moral conundrum there. Like, should we? But you can't think of those people as a monolith either at the same time.
Yeah, is it okay for Russian imperialists to annex Ukrainian Nazis? Like, what's the calculus here?
Right.
Yeah.
And so, well, and I know, okay, so I am nowhere near a fan of Russia. I don't think that I think Putin is, my guess is his goal is to kind of do some reformation of the USSR, as it was before the fall of the Berlin Wall and the splitting up of the USSR as a whole. So I think what he's trying to do is he's trying to kind of move in that area, and he's also trying to, I think, show some aggression towards NATO in certain ways, so that he can kind of have a straw man for the types of things that he's doing. But then on the other hand, and I just think that anybody who's in a position where they're being taken over or annexed, now I might not agree with some of the politics in that country, but I still think that we should probably do something to help them. Now, whether we should put troops on the ground there is a different story. I think that's probably something that's a little bit more of a nuanced conversation, and something that we probably shouldn't do yet. Because, there's nukes. Nukes are involved on both sides. So it's a very touchy situation, but I don't think it's nothing like Hassan is making it out to be, for instance.
Well, swinging this back to democracy. So would you? We can go into any like specific frame you want, but oftentimes I find leftists are very pro like direct democracy, like one person, one vote. They view the electoral college as antiquated. They don't really like the representative system because they think that the representative system is kind of like how we've been corrupted in the first place. So for me, my concern is like the democratic seesaw, where on one hand you could have a lot of people who are like gung-ho after 9/11, where we're like, hey, yeah, let's go kill everybody. It's going to be fucking awesome. And then, you basically shit stomp the planet. And then 5 years later, you're like, oh, turns out war is actually kind of like disgusting and hard. Let's get the fuck out. And then that's kind of my fear, is that like while memes of the deep state are, it's a very easy target to say everybody who's in power is a piece of shit, and if we were in charge, we would do it better. My fear with that kind of attitude is that I feel like direct democracy, particularly when it comes to like crises and war, can almost be worse. So how do you feel about like?
Okay, well, so I'm
representation and the way our system is now.
Sure, I'm a big advocate of. I'm not a big fan of the electoral college. I think that in this day and age, with as connected as the country is, land shouldn't be able to vote necessarily. Like, I mean, of course we need to listen to the interests of everybody and decide what's best for the country. But I think there's a little bit too much of a belief that just leftists live in California or just people on the right live in Alabama, right? Like, I'm smack dab in the middle of the country here, and I live in a pretty purple area. With our local politics, it's usually Republicans who win. And we've had some pretty good, more left-leaning people that have gotten some national attention too. So there's some I guess I got a weird view of things, that people think that because they live in a heavily red or heavily blue district, that if it's one person, one vote, that there'll be certain areas that are left out necessarily. I think that if it kind of will even out in the long run in many places, if you're voting, with that just one vote, maybe there's something we can do as well, like ranked choice voting or something like that may even the system out a little bit as well. But I think that that would be the type of way to go, is to be more of get rid of the electoral college. I would be okay with getting rid of the Senate, to be honest. I just feel like in this day and age, there's such a blockade to legislation on both sides. It seems like that we're gridlocked. There's nothing that we can do, and so government's becoming to the point where it's not functional anymore. So what the hell is the point? And this is me getting doomer on you, I guess, a little bit. But what the hell is the point if we can't have things that the people overwhelmingly want as a majority, but can't pass through Congress or through the Senate? For instance, a lot of the Build Back Better plan, when it was talked about individually, for instance, a lot of those provisions were overwhelmingly, with Democrats and Republicans, popular. But when you talk about it as like the Build Back Better plan as a whole, there is a certain like kind of division that comes in the country because it's like the Democrats versus the Republicans.
Yeah, can you actually provide examples of the more popular things? Because in the era of inflation, I think it would actually be interesting to talk about.
Mhm.
What were some of the more popular provisions that you're like, hey, most people agree with this. We should have just passed it instead of fucking with it.
Yeah,
what?
the child care provisions, that was a big one. I believe that paid leave and things like that for that they were talking about for expecting mothers and fathers as well. I don't think that fathers get enough time at all in this country when they have a child born. You know, I think a lot traditionally, like even conservatives say, you know, it takes a mother and a father in the household, right? So why not give that time for the both of them to bond?
Dad needs to work 60 hours a week, or else he's not a real man. Like, what you basically just have to be a fucking paycheck for your family, or else you're a fucking pussy.
Right.
That was the dumbest shit. And like, by the way, for like, I know we have a couple of social conservatives in chat or whatever. Basically, what I would say is, one of the evolutions that I want to see in the right and conservative America in general is the recognition that economically healthy families are the building block of the country. If you want your stupid fucking plastic goddamn toys to get bought, then mom and dad need sufficient paychecks to be able to buy the toys for Timmy. And if you're making them fucking work like slave wages and slave hours, can't do that shit. So that's where, for me, it's like, I know everybody kind of wants to get back to the 1950s because they, you know, love milkshakes and racism. I want to get back to the milkshakes, but not the racism. So that's kind of my thing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, there's some social aspects. Like I was just talking today about how it seems like relationships were a little bit more some of the traditional things weren't so that bad about them. Like, you know, it seemed like that there was a lot more affection and love for each other back then in a more formal way, which was kind of cool in a way, I guess. Like now it's like everybody's running around like chickens with their heads cut off on Tinder trying to figure out what the fuck is going on, you know? So I think that's.
So how did that take go over in your leftist circles?
Well, I had actually explicitly said something about I wouldn't want to go back to this time, you know. But yeah, but but I think that some of the dating rituals back then were better than they are in the age of Tinder, for instance.
They're at least predictable, right?
Right.
So even if you were like, hey, there's some toxic shit to this.
Mm-hmm.
There's a certain level of expectation whereas I think you're right now it's the fucking Wild West.
Yeah.
And I think we're paying some consequences for that culturally and socially.
Well, yeah, there's definitely something to be said about touching grass, meeting people in person, you know, and stuff like that, like actually going out and being in the world. I feel like the more important connections I've made with people have been in those situations, you know.
Yeah, can I point out my thrust for the direct democracy thing?
Sure.
Is I think one of the intuitively obvious things that we're taught as kids, but like it's obviously hard to demonstrate like politically because everybody wants to fucking study, right? The thing about it is like how do you stop like the ice cream effect. You know what I'm saying? And what I mean by that is like you have politicians who come up and they say, "Hey, listen, put me in charge. You know, we'll have nap time every day. Every day will be pizza day. Every day will be ice cream day, and it's going to kick ass." And then obviously people love naps, pizza, and ice cream. And of course I'm like memeing a little bit. I'm just using like student body council as a fucking example.
Sure.
But the point being that there are like real incentives for people to not think long term, not think coherently, not think using logistics or limits or anything like that, and to kind of just promise themselves the world, you know. But not be able to actually deliver. And oftentimes when it comes to left-wing collapse, I know that the CIA is responsible for every left-wing government collapsing in the history of the world, and that actually if the CIA didn't exist, it would all be based in red-pilled. But that being said, it does seem like there's... so for instance, like Venezuela is like, hey, we're going to eradicate child poverty, we're going to give everybody a laptop, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. But then when you base your economy based off of like a nationalized version of petroleum, and then you have a single commodity that props this up, and then you get fucked over on that commodity, it seems like everything falls to shit.
Sure.
So my question is, if in a direct democracy, if we eliminated the Senate, if we had a more representative democratic forum, how do you avoid the perverse incentives of leaders just being like, vote for me and I'll give you cool shit?
Sure. Well, and that's what what I think the ranked choice voting would help with. First of all, second of all, are you familiar with the concept of ranked choice voting?
Yeah, it's kind of like you can pick your favorite candidate, but you can also pick like
second,
a
third,
backup
yeah,
as well.
Yeah. So you can in a lot of them you can go straight down the row and vote for all or whoever you want to. But you list them in order, and as many candidates there are. And so there's different values for each section or each position you put them in. So I think that would help a little bit. But I think we still need a representatives or otherwise things get too muddy. Like you can't have the population voting on policy. I think that would get a little messy, right? So
can you tell the other lefties on Twitch, because I swear to God some of them actually fucking believe that like we need a 51-49 vote on fucking like environmental issues and economic issues. And like I know that's not most people, and some of these people are fucking children. But at the same time, could you like spread the word?
Yeah.
Like holy shit.
Yeah.
Like
well, and
some people say that shit and I want to fucking die.
Another thing, and I don't know how exactly we get to this point, but I think it would be best if we had a more diverse electorate as far as parties are concerned. Like this two-party system shit is just not working. I mean, it's clogging things up because it's split right down the middle. I think that there's even, you can kind of see it in our elected officials right now. It almost seems like there's two separate Republican parties and two separate Democratic parties, by the way that their ideologies are split. For instance, you've got your more conservative old school Republicans, and then you've got your MAGA people, right? And then you've got the on the left you've got the Bernie Sanders crowd and the squad and the leftists, and then you've got your more corporate Nancy Pelosi's and your more establishment Democrats as well. So it feels like that's already split but they're still trying to vote on one party, which is even a bigger problem, because not only is there a split down the middle between Republicans and Democrats, but there's often a split in the party as well. So it's a gridlock everywhere. I just think that the Senate kind of musses things up a little bit, but I do think that we do need a representatives to handle policy for the most part. Now, I think if there was less or no money in politics whatsoever, then it would be a situation where we would go a long way gaining trust back in the government with that. And I feel like that people would actually do a little bit more of what they say they're going to do when they are elected and represent the people.
Yeah, so what do you say to like Destiny, for instance, who says like, hey, we already have a diversity of representation because we have caucuses. And even if like we were going to try to like improve the system or whatever, ultimately what you're talking about is these caucuses breaking up into different different groups basically. So that's kind of like his argument where it's like, oh well, we already have. To be fair, I'm just articulating this because like I'm trying to bring up a counter argument for the hope that you've said it. But he's also done like just world fallacy argumentation to me in the past where he's like, well, this is the way it is. And I'm like, is that good though? And he's like, yeah, but this is the way it is. And it's like, okay, that tells me fucking nothing, you know?
Right.
So I guess my question is, do you not acknowledge like the diversity of the caucuses? Do you think that it limits the threshold of what can be presented legislatively? Like, what's the downside to having the leftists trapped in with the Democrats? Like, what would they be able to do separate from themselves? Because even if they were separate and they formed a party, they would still be beholden to having to build coalitions. So what would be new?
Sure. So, well, and I think that there would be some crossover. I mean, if you look at for instance, even Canada's system, they've got like several parties that do get seats in Congress, or their version of Congress, of Parliament, and they basically will kind of work across the aisle with each other when they're closer to that particular party's perspective values, right? So you've got what is it, the NDP, and then the leftist parties, they kind of interchange and work together. Again, with ranked choice voting, that would make it easier for them to kind of work together as well. But I think what would happen is if the progressive left was split off from the Democratic Party, for instance, I think it would only give it a chance to grow and get more voices involved. I think that it would take a little bit for there to be some actual power that was gained by that, but I think it would be a little bit more democratizing. Same thing with on the right. I think that I have this feeling, and
Is that good? Well, because like on the right, the populist right is MAGA. Like
right.
The corporate right.
That's what I was gonna say. Is there's different tactics for both, because when we have it this way, the way that it's set up, so that there are essentially two different factions of each party, there are ways that are good and bad about it. If you really look at the landscape for an election, for instance, you have your progressive voters and you have your establishment voters, right? But they only, like primaries, for instance, those aren't going to work together very well, right? But when it comes to when they're already in Congress, it may be a different situation. And
yeah, no, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and with the right, it is, I think, the right has been so galvanized for so many years, and now we're just kind of seeing this split happen between them, and it would be kind of interesting to see what happens with as that continues on, and what that's going to do.
Honestly, what's scary, do you know what's fucking scary is being like right wing and more sympathetic to like the corporate people, or like the sensible people, or the moderate people, and then you just absolutely fucking know that if you did not have the sobering effect of the boring ass fucking fogey moderates, the MAGA would just dominate. Like that's my thing, is like, you're arguing from a leftist perspective that you're like, hey, I think it would actually be cool to break off the leftists because I think they would do better on their own than instead of being muted by the Democrats. But for me, it's like, I'm a centrist. I'm like I believe in like corporate power to some extent, and I want these moderating effects to occur. Now maybe it's too moderating, right? Because we do have like serious problems that we have to deal with that we're not dealing with. But also it's like, fuck, dude. Like I see the dumber parts of the left and right, and I get worried about what they would do with power.
Yeah,
like very worried.
Oh, for sure.
And then I guess that's my thing, is like, no offense, like we're having a great conversation. But I'm maybe breaking 100 because people don't like good faith conversations. If I was screaming at you and calling you a piece of shit, we could easily get into 100, 150.
Yeah.
But The people who are wildly popular, like Hassan, they're dumb as fuck, and their perspectives suck, and yet they're wildly popular. It's to me, like, populism is a fucking, like, part of my distrust of direct democracy is my distrust of the average person. It's, you know, I am elitist in the sense that I think above average and average intelligent people are fucking stupid, myself included. So I have no hope for the average person, or below average person.
Yeah, I typically think that I guess in the last 2 years started really getting into the leftist online left, basically, and seeing the dichotomy between the online left and the online right. I mean, I watched a lot of everything, but I think that a lot of it is for the clicks, for the clout. You know, it is going to be drama that's exacerbated for the sake of getting views and things like that a lot of time, which is within cancel culture. Sometimes it's a little bit of a dangerous game, I guess, but it seems like that's becoming something that's more and more prevalent on both sides of the fence, as far as with the left and the right, not necessarily with the right fighting with each other, but I think on the left.
But can I share my nightmare with you?
Yeah.
So my nightmare is Twitch politicians.
Oh yeah. I see that coming.
But yeah, Twitch and Twitter politicians. So it's not shit. I'm trying to think of how to phrase why it would be more dangerous. For me, the popularity is part of the danger, because it can become like a positive and negative feedback cycle where people are just saying whatever they know will get them attention with their faction, and it becomes like incredibly masturbatory. Whereas a lot of people who will go to war with their audiences aren't as rewarded algorithmically or rewarded by their audiences. You know what I'm saying? So that's my fear, is kind of like the runaway train of populism with like I was joking, but every day we'll have nap time and ice cream sundaes. You know what I'm saying? Like that's my fear, is that popular dumb dickheads will become the rule, not the exception.
Sure, and I get that there's like kind of the mob rules kind of thing where people kind of I don't have a lot of faith in humanity myself a lot of times, so it's kind of like seeing like a mob be able to say, yeah, we want everything free, you know, is one thing, you know, but I do think that there's a balance there somewhere within a framework that everybody can kind of agree with.
I want to ask you another black pill question.
Okay.
So basically, like, I think it's fun and sometimes entertaining to like challenge your preconceived notions about the way our system works, and, you know, is this the way that it really needs to be and stuff.
Sure.
Like, I'm cool with all of that. But at the same time, like, what it would actually take for us to, let's say, get money out of politics, ban the Senate, and basically move to still a representative government, but a closer to the people representative government. What that would actually take is like a complete reformation of our system.
Oh yeah.
That would take like borderline like an environmental catastrophe or a revolution to take place.
Sure, and I don't think that we're too far off from that, though, to be honest. Like it within
really,
yeah, well, in many aspects, like socially, and then also, you know, I do see a lot of problems with climate change. I mean, so I live in an area. It's weird because the climate, changing of the climate that I've noticed over in my area is kind of it's more. It's almost a positive thing, because our winters have gotten much shorter, for instance, and it's a bad thing for the people who plow snow, for instance. They're not making any fucking money at all. But you know, those are, it almost scares me at the same time, because I know that once you know, fucking Florida falls into the ocean, or you know, some giant hurricanes happen, everybody's gonna migrate to where I'm at, and it's gonna be like a climate refugee haven, and then it's going to be a situation where,
Yeah, gonna be moving to Based, Idaho. I'm so excited. Dude, I was literally Googling Twin Rivers, Idaho today because somebody was like, yeah, Boise is beautiful. There's not that many people. And then I started Googling photos and I'm like, man, that looks cold as fuck. But besides that, it looks beautiful.
Yeah, it's one of those situations where like I just feel like so there's some things that are inevitable, like climate change. I feel like that we're not gonna skirt past that one. So we're gonna get affected by it some way, whether it's harshly or not so harshly is up to us. But the division in this country, I think that can be changed a little bit easier than climate change can be, but it's still something that's kind of tearing the country apart right now in many ways.
But you do think, just to clarify, you do think it's potentially bad enough for us to literally say our system is fucked. We have to start.
Okay. So
literally from scratch.
Yeah, I was getting into that. What I was going to say is that I feel like the early warning signs are here, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I don't think that we're at a point right now where everybody's just going to be able to, like, we're not going to get everybody to throw up their hands and be like, okay, fuck it, let's do something, let's change, let's update the Constitution, whatever. I don't think that there's I think that's going to probably take something like that, or either that or it's going to be a more gradual situation where there's more checks and balances put into place, and slowly but surely we're able to whittle away at some of the lobbying and stuff like that that's going on in politics in our country. And then eventually there might be it'll give a little bit more. And I think that like some of the older politicians and older people in this country that are holding on to archaic views are dying off too. So like you see the younger generation coming up, they have there's a little bit more coalesced ideal of what the world should be.
I was gonna ask about that because I do meme about like boomer side often on my channel.
Mm-hmm.
And like obviously I love my parents, they're from the baby boomer generation. I don't want them to ever die. I love them dearly. But it does seem, like you said, there's a lot of things that to us seem 30 years overdue that don't seem politically possible because of boomers. And I'm pretty sure Gen X is actually a relatively small generation. And then that kind of means that Gen X and millennials will be in the driver's seat probably in the next 20 years.
Oh, yeah.
So then that's kind of the question is like, are some of these things literally just generational shifts? That's kind of my, not my concern, but I'm wondering if that's going to like, if it's borderline going to save us. Because when we're talking about that, basically, I don't think like anybody under the age of 50, except for like Ben Shapiro and Matt Walsh, give a fuck about marijuana. I literally don't. Like I think most people view it like, yes, it's potentially bad. It could have some effects like alcohol, but should we be throwing teenagers and young adults in jail for it? Absolutely not.
Sure.
I think pretty much everybody is at that stage.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then I was trying to think about like even with climate change, I understand that there's a really strong lobby that's been using conservatives as a shield against like the popularity of electrics and the popularity of renewables and all that kind of stuff. But I'm also wondering if they were just like buying regulatory time so they could develop the technology, because basically, we just went through the Super Bowl. In the Super Bowl, there was like fucking 8 different commercials for like electric pickup trucks and electric cars and like all that kind of shit. The writing kind of feels on the wall.
Yeah, that's definitely the case.
That shit.
I think the problem, like, okay, so electric cars are fine. Like, I think that they're a great thing, but they're not going to solve any climate change issues if we don't change the infrastructure of how we like generate power in this country either. Because it's a situation where, well, we're still feeding off of the grid with the electric vehicles, so we're still using oil to produce the energy that goes into the grid. So it's kind of it's not doing as much for the environment as it could be if we were.
But how do you feel about nukes though?
Like nuclear weapons or nuclear power plants?
Yeah, power plants.
Yeah, power plants. I think that they could be a good. I don't think that there should be one solution. I think that we could use a combination of solar power, nuclear power, and wind power, hydroelectric, things like that. We could use a lot of those different things to kind of more decentralize our grid a little bit too, so that way that when stuff like that, what happened in Texas when there was that snow, doesn't happen, for instance. I think that would be a good way to do things. Eventually, I think that we might figure out fusion, but it's always 10 years in the future, you know? So
Yeah. So what I was going to bring up too, because I'm like a fucking political genius who has solved all of the world's problems, you know, and I'm going to take credit for them in a few years. So the
counterpoints for president.
Yeah, I mean, like I would, as long as you don't like clip me out of context when I'm talking about Victoria's Secret models with Down syndrome. That's totally fine. But the point being that like, you know, my frustration is I feel like so I know that everybody likes to fucking jerk themselves off on like Twitch and Twitter about how we're so important, and then it boils down to drama, and we kind of vacillate between, are we the future of political discourse where we're going to hash out ideas online, those ideas are going to become popular, and then they actually impact our culture? Or is this like a giant fucking wank fest where a bunch of fucking nerds just argue with each other endlessly to no result? We seem to like bump between those two, right?
Yeah, I think it's somewhere in the middle. Like, you know,
yeah, me too.
Yeah, it's a fluctuation. It happens like, you know, where there's certain people who
just like any pop culture.
Right, yeah, exactly. And eventually I think that, you know, there's going to be something new that comes out, like, you know, we're all going to be in a more decentralized, like, I would like to see, like, I don't like the metaverse thing whatsoever, but I would like to see something that is more decentralized, to where we could actually go into these environments and talk to people one-on-one. I think it would add some more empathy to an online experience if we were able to do that. But for the most part,
sorry. So I wanted to bring this up. So you were talking about like reorganizing what is it? Like just energy infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
But I was being even more, or wanted to be even more aggressive than that. I think when it comes to the way that we design cities and living spaces, we basically need to completely rethink.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the, like I said, I'm a fucking genius. So one of the things that I want to do is basically like the American shopping mall, right? Obviously, you can, like, there's a whole bunch of infrastructure challenges for why you can't just like literally gut malls and turn them into housing and shit. But if you think about that conceptually, where you turn the corners of the mall into, you know, like apartment, high density housing, condos, all that kind of stuff, and you could scale it for different incomes, different classes, different needs, different abilities, all that kind of stuff. You could literally design with every single person in mind, and then have a walkable interior commercial and public space where basically you have access to schools, access to daycare, access to this, and it's all walkable.
Mm-hmm.
And then have the parking on the exterior. You could basically live and die an entire life within this like habitation center, but then you would significantly reduce the amount of carbon that you're putting in the air through transportation. You would have more communal settings, so you wouldn't have old people living in 1,500 square foot houses and dying alone. You would basically be able to centralize and accumulate wealth for a lot of people. And if we designed housing with like human happiness in mind, I think we could do a really kick-ass job. But just only a few people are talking or thinking about this right now.
Yeah, I have you ever heard of oh gosh, what's it called? The Venus Project.
Is it that where they're gonna build like literally places in the sky of Venus?
No. The Venus Project was there was an older gentleman, I can't remember his name, but he'd been working on it for years and years and years, and it was basically a way to plan cities around modular environments. So it's exactly pretty much what you're saying right now. So
Nice.
there would be a central hub, and then there would be modular sections throughout that have equal amounts of residential and commercial and industrial areas within them. They'd have their own farms. He was talked a lot about high rise farms, like indoor farms and things like that.
No, and wouldn't that kick some serious fucking ass to be able to be like, Like so for instance, like on one thing, like I love talking to nerds all over the fucking planet, but wouldn't it kick some ass to literally have some fucking nerds within walking distance where you're like, yo, you want to meet up like at the gaming center? Do you want to meet up at the, the I don't know, fucking paintball park or some shit?
Sure.
And instead of it being like a 40-minute drive because it takes a fucking act of Congress to get like any 30-year-olds all in the same place at the same time, it's just a fucking walk. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's literally a walk.
Yeah,
and so
you said that
Sorry, go ahead.
you said that about malls too, about how there's a lot of old malls dying and things like that, and they're being restructured. That's actually happening in my. I live in Omaha, Nebraska, so I'm close to Destiny himself. Actually,
why? Yeah, why do all you got? Because I have a friend named Nate Dallin. He's a lawyer in Omaha, and it just seems like like when how do I phrase this? You know when like Canadians have too many fucking Canadians who are in American pop culture, so it's like it's suspicious.
Yeah.
Like it's like the Jewish question, but with Canadians. I'm starting to fucking wonder about like Omaha, Nebraska, because like you're like the third fucking political nerd I've met from Omaha who fucking loves like debates and online politics.
Oh,
So
yeah,
that's super fucking
Oh,
interesting.
I have a couple of friends who do too. There's a guy that I talk with at my day job who's he actually knows you and is a big fan of like watching the Hippy Dippy and stuff like that too. So we
Nice.
we nerd out about that stuff too.
No, we need to start asking the Omaha question. There's something going on. So no, but
there's a mid or a central mall in the city that recently was torn down, and they're actually doing that. They're building a whole center area where there's like apartment buildings and lofts, and then like everything's right there. And there's a school fairly close, like elementary school and a high school fairly close, but they're not actually in the thing. But I think if they went that far, that would be cool, to kind of keep everything in that area.
Well, and this is the kind of shit where like should I be scared? Should I be shitting my pants? Should I be hopeful about the future? Like I have no idea what to fucking think, because it's like on one hand it seems like all our infrastructure is on a fucking runaway train and nobody above the age of 30 gives a fuck about planning for the future, and they're the ones with all the concentrated money. And then on the other hand it seems like there's a lot of kick-ass ideas that are bubbling up through the internet that could actually change the world for the better, and I don't know what to do about that.
Sure, and when there's places that you can think of that and that are less developed around the world that might get a head start on some of that stuff because they're not so developed right now, or like you can kind of see that like after like war torn like areas of Japan and things that have happened there like over in the middle of Europe and things, that there's a lot of new developments happening over there simply because their infrastructure was torn apart and they had to start from the scratch, right? I'm not saying that we should do that, but I'm saying that like at this point where our infrastructure is at such a shit position, maybe we should actually go out and research the newest things that we can do to make the infrastructure better. For instance, we were talking about energy earlier. I know there's a lot of places in I think it's in Korea where they have kinetic roads. So people, as they're walking down the city streets, their footsteps are actually generating energy for the buildings around them.
Yeah, and we obviously have to look at like efficiency and shit, because I think there's like some ideas that are a little bit like too aggressive. So for instance, I was trying to think about one of them. There was something that like people invested in, and then it actually ended up being like a net loss, and then the depreciation was like faster than you would actually get a positive. I don't know if the kinetic roads are like that or not. But at the same time, like there's so much opportunity, and I'm kind of like sad that people who are older than me, who have power and wealth and influence, not only do they seem like ignorant of these ideas or these concerns, they seem completely dismissive of them too. Like literally, I'm having there's a new basically like a old commercial area is being torn down, and they're just building a new road and quarter-acre lots with 1,500 square foot homes or 3,000 square foot mansions. Yeah. And it's like, dude, like what the fuck? Like, Why are we doing this?
I think a lot of them.
Why couldn't we rethink something new here?
I think a lot of them. There's they are of the mind. Well, fuck, I'm not going to be around to enjoy any of this shit anyways. So why don't I just make as much money off of it as possible, right? So that could be some part of the motivation for that sort of thing. I think that even in local politics, politicians get their backs rubbed and get their pockets filled. So I think that,
but how sad is that though? So I kind of want to ask about that because for me, I got a kid, and like a lot of these politicians have kids. A lot of these rich people have kids. So do they just assume that? Well, I mean, like number one, fuck everybody else's kids, I guess.
Yeah.
But then two, are they just assuming that they're fucking rich enough that they'll be able to afford the lifeboats? Yeah. Because that's what it fucking feels like.
I do think that. I just recently did a story on stream about Elon Musk and how he revealed in a call with his investors or with the board or something like that when the panic over toilet paper happened at the beginning of the pandemic, that he actually took his kids to Walmart to kind of basically point and laugh at the people who were going crazy. And I think that's kind of the mentality, is they're so padded by their wallets and their trust funds and their money that they don't really think that that's going to be something that's going to affect them in the future. I think there's some things that are inescapable though, like if we do let climate change get really bad, all of us are screwed. It doesn't matter. I don't think it's going to matter how much money you have, unless you go live on Mars, which you have to build a dome for anyways. Why not just build it here?
You dumb fuck.
Yeah.
Like why don't you save the planet you're on, you fucking idiot?
Right.
So granted, and I do understand all of that. My frustration, I guess, is I feel like we could have leaders. I feel like we could have people who give a shit and kind of pay attention to all this stuff. And then it kind of like, it does almost like a surreality for me, where I'm like, well, I feel like if I was rich or powerful, or if I was in these positions, I would be speaking up and trying to make sure that the future actually did look better for future generations. So that like almost like it almost brings up the conspiracy in my mind, where I'm like, well, maybe it's not that bad because all the people who are in charge aren't fucking like panicking and building lifeboats yet.
Yeah.
But then I don't know either.
But
so
I think that there are
waffle.
There are quite a few rich people that are
sounding the alarm.
Yeah, sounding the alarm. Yeah, that sort of thing. Like Bill Gates, for instance. I know he's given a lot of money to climate change initiatives and things like that.
But see, I thought that he was buying farms so he could like harvest child sex slaves so he could drink their adrenochrome. But I mean, like you say that you laugh, but then like I hear like the Epstein shit, and then I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, it could be.
Maybe Bill Gates is fucking drinking the adrenochrome out of smoke.
Hanging out with Prince Andrew.
Dude,
I'm not a big fan of billionaires in any sense, but it's not like I think that they're necessarily bad people. I just think that a society that allows them to exist as billionaires, when there's so many people who are below the poverty line, there's some sort of disconnect there. Something we can do to fix that a little bit more. If everybody was above the poverty line and everybody had a comfortable life, I wouldn't have any problem with billionaires whatsoever. But I feel like that there's a almost automatic thing with a lot of the late stage capitalist problems that we have here, where it kind of siphons all the money to one side, whether we're trying to do that or not, right? Like all of it's being sucked to a small percentage of the population. And then there's.
So do you identify as like a socialist or like a social democrat? Or like where do you?
Okay, so I think that the end game would be like if I had the perfect world, it would be like true communism, all of like Star Trek, for instance. Where everybody
luxury, gay, space communism.
Yeah. But I don't think that that's ever going to happen in my lifetime. What I would and I think that socialism is a good